Romano's Italian restaurant. 30 guests. 15 years of marriage celebrated in a private back room with red leather booths and Edison bulbs casting warm light on white tablecloths. Amber rose with her champagne glass. The room went silent. To Glen, she paused, and 15 years of paying bills. Her smile sharpened. I mean, honestly, he's basically the help around here. Dana laughed, loud, joining the ripple of amusement from her side of the room. I touched my pocket. The spiral-bound ledger. Documented proof. Quick moment, hit subscribe and drop your city in the comments. I love knowing where you're all tuning in from. My name is Glen Yarborough. I'm 52 years old, and I've spent 22 of those years at Midwest Distribution Center, tracking every shipment, every discrepancy, every item that moves through our 400,000 square feet of warehouse space. 16 years ago, none of that mattered. Not when I saw the woman standing in the fellowship hall at Grace Lutheran. Dana wore a blue dress that Sunday morning. Not designer, just something from Kohl's that caught the light when she moved. Her daughter Amber, hid behind her legs, 13 years old, with eyes that darted away from every adult who tried to talk to her. Dana's laugh filled the room during the church singles mixer, and I walked toward it without thinking. She told me about the credit card debt over coffee that first week. $34,000. Her ex-husband Derek had run up the balances and vanished to Arizona, leaving her with a daughter and a stack of bills that grew faster than she could pay them. I paid them off within a year of our wedding. Every cent. The college fund came next. Ohio State charged $89,000 for Amber's 4 years. I wrote those checks, watching the girl who once hid behind her mother's legs transform into someone who walked across a graduation stage while I sat in the back row, cropped out of the professional photos Dana ordered afterward. The apartment in the short north cost $2,200 a month. I co-signed the lease because Amber's credit score was too low, because Dana asked, because that's what fathers did. Even fathers who weren't blood. I could have been operations manager by now. Margaret Chen offered the promotion twice. More money, corner office, but the travel would have kept me away for weeks at a time. Family comes first, I told her both times. My dad worked the assembly line at a brake pad factory in Newark, Ohio, until his heart gave out at 54. He never missed a single one of my baseball games. Never complained about the double shifts or the arthritis in his hands. He just showed up, did the work. I thought I was following his example. The fishing cabin on Lake Erie stayed a dream I kept postponing. Next year, I'd tell myself, after Amber graduates, after we pay off the house, after Dana's car needs replacing again. The brochures in my desk drawer had yellowed at the edges. Every 2 weeks, my paycheck hit the joint account. $2,847, direct deposited into Fifth Third Bank. Dana handled the online statements because she was better with computers. Balanced the checkbook by hand, the same way I tracked inventory at work, the same way my father taught me to keep records. I noticed things changing around year 10. Small things. Amber's requests for money increased. $500 for car repairs. $800 for medical bills. $1,200 for emergency rent, the lease I was already paying. Dana waved off my questions. She's figuring things out. Don't make a thing of it. Text messages to Amber went unanswered for days. Then, I'd see her Instagram stories, expensive restaurants, shopping bags from stores I couldn't pronounce. I started keeping notes. Dates and amounts in a spiral-bound notebook with a green cover, purchased from Office Depot for $3.47. Just warehouse habits, I told myself. Just keeping track. The habit stayed with me through 3 more years of holiday gatherings where I stood at the edges of family photos, 3 more years of Dana's brother holding court while I cleared dishes, 3 more years of Amber's voice turning Glen Bear into something that sounded like a punchline. 22 years at Midwest Distribution taught me one skill above all others: documentation, chain of custody. Every item accounted for, discrepancies flagged, transactions recorded in permanent ink. I never suspected I'd need those habits at home. But the notebook grew thicker, the columns filled with numbers, and somewhere in those pages, a pattern waited to be seen. Amber called me Glen Bear at Thanksgiving dinner 3 years ago. Nothing wrong with the nickname itself, but the way she stretched it out, the upward lilt at the end, the glance she shot her mother before saying it. Dana covered her mouth, hiding a smile. I let it go. Family jokes. Normal stuff. But the nickname kept coming back. Glen Bear forgot to take out the recycling. Glen Bear's truck is blocking the driveway again. Glen Bear thinks he knows everything about Civil War history. Same tone every time. Same glance at her mother. Family photos told their own story. Christmas at Dana's brother Troy's house, 12 people arranged around the tree. I stood at the far right edge, half my shoulder cut off in the frame. Easter brunch, Dana's parents' place. I was in the kitchen doorway, blurred, while Amber posed front and center with her grandmother's pearls. I noticed the anniversary photo 6 months after Dana framed it. The professional shot from Romano's 5 years ago. Except it wasn't the full table anymore. Someone had cropped it. Just Dana and Troy and Amber now, raising glasses. I was in that original photo. I remembered smiling for it. I didn't ask Dana about the edit. I already knew what she'd say. The money requests changed around the same time. Amber texted Dana, never me. Dana would mention it at dinner. Casual, like discussing the weather. Amber needs help with her car. $500 should cover it. I nodded, wrote the transfer. 3 weeks later, her company's insurance doesn't cover that specialist. $800, I nodded. Wrote the transfer. 2 months after that, emergency rent situation. She's behind on the apartment I co-signed. $1,200, just until she sorts it out. That's a lot of emergencies, I said. Dana's fork paused over her plate. She's 29. You remember what that was like. I was paying my own rent at 29. Well, Dana's eyes slid toward the window. Not everyone has your advantages. I started at $6 an hour. 22 years ago. I let it go, but I started writing things down. The green notebook stayed in my glove box, next to my father's pocket watch and the registration papers. Dates in the left column. Amounts in the middle. Purpose on the right, copied from Dana's explanations. Car repair. Medical. Rent emergency. Birthday gift. Investment opportunity. Investment opportunity appeared 3 times in 1 month. But I didn't ask what Amber was investing in. The answers had stopped making sense anyway. Text messages to Amber went into a void. Happy birthday. Hope you're doing well. Blue check mark. Delivered. No response for 4 days. Then a single emoji. Thumbs up. I scrolled through her Instagram that same week. Photos from a rooftop bar in the short north, drinks that cost more than my lunch budget for a month. Shopping bags from Nordstrom, a weekend trip to Chicago with friends I'd never heard of. The comments section glowed with praise. Living your best life. Queen behavior. So proud of you. I closed the app. At Troy's 4th of July barbecue, he held the grill spatula like a scepter, entertaining Dana's cousins with stories about a customer who'd paid cash for a Cadillac Escalade. I scraped plates into the trash bag. Loaded the dishwasher. wiped down the counters while Troy's voice carried through the sliding glass door. "Glen's got the cleanup covered," he announced. "That's his thing." Dana laughed from the patio. I added July 4th, yard work and cleanup, 5 hours to a mental list I'd never write down. Some things didn't need documentation. They just needed remembering. The green notebook grew thicker that fall. More transfers. More emergencies. More thumbs-up emojis in response to genuine questions about Amber's life. I started highlighting entries in yellow when the explanations felt thin. Red circles around amounts that seemed too round, too convenient. Patterns emerged in the margins. Transfers spiked around holidays. Around a birthday in March that I couldn't connect to anyone I knew. The columns told a story, and the story had a number: $127,450. 3 years. Documented in permanent ink. February cold burned my lungs. 23 degrees, according to my truck's dashboard. I didn't feel it. The F-150 sat where I'd left it, third row from the entrance, backed into the space the way I always parked. Old habit from loading dock days. Always know your exit. I opened the Glovebox. Green notebook, the same $3 notebook I'd bought 3 years ago. 3 years of entries in permanent ink. The dome light cast yellow shadows across the pages as I flipped to the last entry. January 17th. Dana transferred $800 to Amber for car insurance. Except Amber drove a leased BMW with insurance built into the payment. I'd co-signed that lease too. I added tonight's date, February 8th, anniversary dinner. Wrote 2 words in block letters. The help. Then I turned to the final page. The running total. $127,450. Documented transfers to Amber Fairchild over 36 months. Every amount verified against the checkbook I balanced by hand, while Dana handled the digital statements she never showed me. The numbers sat there in permanent ink. 3 years of emergencies that weren't emergencies. 3 years of requests routed through Dana, never directly to me. 3 years of thumbs-up emojis in response to genuine questions about Amber's life. I stared at the total until my breath fogged the windshield. The restaurant door opened. Troy's laugh bounced off the strip mall storefronts. He walked Dana and Amber to their cars, phone still in his hand. I'd watched him recording during the toast. Watched him grin while Amber delivered her punchline. Watched Dana cover her mouth, shoulders shaking with laughter she didn't try to hide. 15 years. 820 weeks of paychecks deposited into an account Dana controlled. Mortgage payments, car repairs, grocery runs, Amber's tuition, Amber's apartment, Amber's emergencies that arrived like clockwork every month. The help. I closed the notebook, set it on the passenger seat. My phone showed 3 missed calls from Dana. No voicemails. She knew I'd seen the screen when I excused myself. She knew I'd walked past the table without looking at her. The text appeared. "Where did you go?" "Everyone's asking." I typed 1 word. "Home." Then I sat in the dark and thought about Grant at Vicksburg. My father took me to the battlefield when I was 12. We walked the trenches, studied the siege lines, talked about how 40,000 Confederate soldiers starved because Grant controlled the supply routes. Not the dramatic cavalry charges or the famous generals. Just logistics. Food and ammunition and the patience to wait. Sometimes the man who controls the supply lines is the one who matters most. Dad worked double shifts for 30 years to keep our family fed. Never complained. Never asked for recognition. Just showed up, did the work, went home. I thought I was following his example. The restaurant lights went dark. Troy's BMW pulled out of the lot. Dana's Camry following. They didn't look toward my truck, didn't notice me sitting 30 feet away in the dark, watching their taillights disappear down Sawmill Road. I pulled out my phone and scrolled to Phil's number. My brother worked fraud investigation at Fifth Third Bank, 20 years of tracing money that didn't want to be traced. I'd mentioned some concerns to him 6 months ago, asked him to keep an eye on unusual patterns if anything crossed his desk. He answered on the second ring. "You okay?" he asked. "I need you to pull transfer records," I said. "Everything from the last 6 months. Dates, amounts, routing numbers, anything connected to Amber's Chase account." "Glenn, what happened?" I looked at the green notebook on the passenger seat. 3 years of documentation. Every transaction traced, every discrepancy flagged. Warehouse habits applied to a marriage I should have examined closer. She called me the help, I said, in front of 30 people, and Dana laughed. Phil was quiet for a long moment. "I'll have the records by Monday," he said. "But, Glenn, what are you planning?" I started the engine. The heater kicked on, blowing cold air that would take 10 minutes to warm. "The same thing Grant did," I said. "Cut the supply lines." 2 weeks after the anniversary dinner, Connie Wexler found me in the break room. She'd worked accounts receivable at Midwest Distribution for 12 years. Gray hair pulled back in a practical bun, reading glasses on a chain around her neck. I'd covered her shifts during her mother's hospice care 2 summers ago. Never mentioned it, neither did she. She set a white envelope on the table next to my coffee. Standard business size, but the paper felt different. Personal mail weight. "Found this in your cubby," she said. "Mail got mixed up during the office renovation. Forwarding labels came loose on half the stuff." I looked at the return address. Fifth Third Bank, our home branch. "Didn't read it," Connie added. "Noticed it wasn't company mail. Thought you should know." She was gone before I could thank her. The envelope sat there for a full minute while I finished my coffee. Paper statement. Dana handled the digital alerts. I hadn't seen a physical statement in years. I opened it. February's transactions filled 2 pages. Mortgage, withdrawal, utility payments, grocery store charges I recognized. Then 3 lines I didn't. Transfer to A. Fairchild, $800. February 3rd. Transfer to A. Fairchild, $900. February 12th. Transfer to A. Fairchild, $700. February 19th. $2,400 in 20 days. To Amber. 3 transfers that never appeared in the online portal Dana controlled. 3 transfers I never saw in the statements she showed me. My ledger tracked what Dana told me about. These bypassed that system entirely. I folded the statement into my jacket pocket and walked to my truck. Phil answered on the second ring. "I need you to run something," I said. Full pattern analysis. Every transfer from my joint account to Amber's Chase account. Going back 3 years. Not just the ones Dana mentioned. All of them. Silence on the line. Then, "You found something." Statement showed up at work. 3 transfers in February I never knew existed. Dana's been making transfers she never told me about. Digital statements go to Dana's email. Since we opened the account, send me the statement. I'll cross-reference against what you've documented. I photographed each page and texted them. Then I sat in the parking lot and thought about supply lines. Phil called back at 7 that evening. I was still in the truck, parked outside a Wendy's, eating a burger I couldn't taste. The fluorescent lights hummed through the windshield. "Your ledger shows $127,450, he said. "Bank records show $189,000. I set down the burger. Wrapper crinkled in the silence. 61,000 in undisclosed transfers, Phil continued. Ones Dana never mentioned. Hidden in the digital statements you never saw. I pulled the green notebook from the glove box. Opened it to the running total. 127,450. My handwriting. Accurate for what Dana had told me. Incomplete. Average monthly transfer runs about 5,000 when you include everything, Phil said. Spikes around holidays. Bigger spike in March. March every year. Largest transfer each March 15th. Between 4 and 6,000. March 15th. Not Amber's birthday. Not Dana's. Not mine. There's more, Phil said. Money moves from your joint account to Amber's Chase. Standard. But within 72 hours of every deposit, she sends a Zelle transfer to a Wells Fargo account in Scottsdale, Arizona. Scottsdale, where Derek Mason had disappeared 16 years ago. Account holder name? I asked. D. Mason. I closed my eyes. Glen, Phil's voice dropped. I found text messages in the transfer memos. Notes between Amber and the recipient. What did they say? He paused. They call you the wallet. Parking lot lights flickered on. A car alarm started somewhere. Stopped. How far back do the transfers to Mason go? I asked. First one matches Amber's college graduation. May, 3 years ago. The month she should have started supporting herself. The month I stepped back, believing my work was done. Can you document the chain? Dates, amounts, routing numbers? Already started. I'll have a full report by Friday. Timestamps, proving the connection. Every transfer from your account matched to deposits in Arizona within 72 hours. Phil, yeah, thank you. You're my brother. He cleared his throat. What are you going to do? I opened the glove box. The green notebook sat there, 3 years of partial evidence in permanent ink. Beside it, the misdirected statement that had cracked the whole thing open. Same thing I've always done, I said. I closed the notebook, started the engine. 2 weeks later, Grace Lutheran Church Fellowship Hall. Fluorescent lights buzzed overhead while Phil's granddaughter received her blessing at the baptismal font. I stood near the back, watching the congregation gather. The same people who'd seen me shovel snow at 5 in the morning before Sunday service. The same people who'd watched me rewire the fellowship hall outlets last spring. Ed Schultz caught my eye and nodded. Connie Wexler sat 3 rows ahead with her husband. The green notebook was in my jacket pocket. Phil's analysis folder waited in my truck. Pastor Randall's voice carried through the sanctuary. Words about welcoming new life, about family, about promises kept. I watched Dana and Amber near the refreshment tables, laughing with Troy about something on his phone. The ceremony ended. People moved toward the cake and punch. Normal church fellowship. Normal Sunday afternoon. I walked toward them. Dana saw me first. Her smile flickered. Glen, I didn't see you come in. I have a question. Troy stepped forward. Glen, buddy, let's take this outside. You're scaring people. $189,000. I kept my voice even. That's the total transfer to Amber over the past 3 years. 61,000 of that went straight to Derek Mason in Arizona. Amber's hand jerked. Punch sloshed over the rim of her glass. I'd like you to explain to everyone here exactly where my money went. The fellowship hall went silent. Ed Schultz set down his plate. Pastor Randall turned from a conversation with the Hendersons. Glen, Dana's voice dropped to a whisper. You're making a scene. Bank records, timestamps. Every deposit into Derek's Arizona account matched to withdrawals from ours within 72 hours. I pulled the manila folder from inside my jacket. Page 4 shows the transfer pattern. Page 7 shows transfer memo notes referring to me as the wallet. Pastor Randall's face went pale as he scanned the documents. Where did you get this? Amber's practiced smile had frozen. You can't just... Phil ran the analysis. Licensed fraud investigator. Every transaction traced. Every discrepancy documented. Dana's eyes darted toward the exit. Glen, please, we can talk about this at home. We're talking about it now. The folder passed from Pastor Randall to Ed Schultz. Ed's jaw tightened as he read. The women from Dana's book club leaned in, whispering. March 15th, I said. Largest transfer every year. $4,000 to $6,000 every spring routed straight to the man who abandoned you 16 years ago. Amber's glass slipped from her fingers, shattered on the floor. Red punch spread across the linoleum. I don't have to explain anything to you. Her voice cracked. You're not even my real father. No one moved. Even Pastor Randall's coffee cup stayed frozen halfway to the table. No. I let the words settle, but I was the one who showed up. Silence. $2,200 a month for your apartment, I continued. $89,000 for Ohio State. $34,000 of your mother's debt. Every paycheck for 15 years while your real father bought cars in Arizona with money I earned loading trucks at 19 years old. Dana reached for my arm. Glen, I can explain. The transfer memos explain everything. I pulled out my phone, showed her the screenshot Phil had forwarded. Investment opportunity. That's what you told me when Derek needed a new down payment. Car insurance for a leased BMW that already includes coverage. Troy tried again. This is family business. You can't just... $189,000. I looked at him. Does that seem like family business to you? Ed Schultz handed the folder to Connie. Connie passed it to Martha Davidson. The documents circulated through the congregation like offering plates. Amber backed toward the door. Mom, we need to go. Dana stood frozen, eyes sliding between me and the exit and the growing circle of witnesses. I filed for divorce this morning, I said. My attorney has copies of everything. Pastor Randall closed the folder. He met my eyes. He'd watched me shovel snow at 5 in the morning. He'd seen the cropped photos. I'll pray for all of you, he said softly. Amber grabbed Dana's arm. They moved toward the side exit, heels clicking against the floor. Troy followed, phone already pressed to his ear. I stood in the fellowship hall while the fluorescent lights buzzed overhead. Ed Schultz clapped a hand on my shoulder. Connie nodded from across the room. The supply lines were cut. The divorce papers arrived on a Tuesday. I signed Dana's response at Phil's kitchen table. His wife made coffee that went cold. Ohio's equitable distribution laws didn't care about cropped photos or anniversary toasts. They cared about documentation, bank records, transfer histories. 3 years of evidence in permanent ink. My attorney, Sarah Chen, had reviewed everything twice. This is the cleanest fraud case I've seen in 15 years, she said during our first meeting. Your documentation exceeds what most prosecutors require. I wasn't interested in prosecution. I just wanted out. Dana contested nothing. Her attorney called Sarah on day 3. The evidence folder had already made its rounds through Grace Lutheran. Ed Schultz mentioned the Women's Auxiliary had removed Dana from the planning committee for the spring fundraiser. She wants to keep the house, Sarah told me over the phone. She can have it. I'd already found a cabin listing on Lake Erie. 2 bedrooms. Private dock. The dream I'd postponed for 15 years. The brochures in my desk drawer had stopped yellowing. Silence on the line. That's generous, Glen. It's practical. The apartment came next. I called the property management company on a Thursday morning, sitting in my truck outside Midwest Distribution. The lease agreement sat on my passenger seat, my signature at the bottom as co-signer and guarantor. I need to submit a 60-day notice of withdrawal, I said, per Section 12 of the lease terms. Keys clicked. She pulled up the file. Mr. Yarborough, you're the guarantor on Unit Force? Correct. And you're terminating your guarantee? I am. More clicking on her end. I'll need that in writing. Certified mail or hand delivered with signature confirmation. I'll bring it today. I drove to the short north that afternoon. The property management office occupied a converted storefront on High Street, exposed brick and industrial lighting designed to appeal to the neighborhood's aesthetic. A receptionist with purple hair and a nose ring accepted my letter. 60 days, she confirmed. After that, the primary leaseholder will need to demonstrate independent financial qualification or vacate. I'd co-signed because Amber's credit couldn't qualify her for the lease. That hadn't changed. Derek Mason stopped answering her calls within 2 weeks. Phil tracked the pattern through phone records subpoenaed during the divorce proceedings. Amber called the Arizona number 47 times between the baptism and the end of March. Average call duration, 12 seconds. Straight to voicemail. The Wells Fargo account in Scottsdale showed no activity after the transfers stopped. Derek had already moved on to the next opportunity, the next person willing to fund his existence. Troy's anniversary video surfaced during discovery. Sarah had subpoenaed his phone records as part of documenting the family's awareness of the financial arrangement. The video showed Amber's toast in full, but the text message he'd sent afterward told the real story. He'd forwarded it to Derek within minutes of recording it. Your daughter is Savage Lowell. Derek's response came back an hour later. That's my girl. Ed Schultz mentioned helping Dana move to her sister's place in Cleveland. Said 3 of her porcelain angels broke when a box shifted in the U-Haul. Dana cried for 20 minutes. Not about the divorce, not about the evidence, about the angels. I said nothing when he told me. Some things weren't worth documenting. The final hearing took 11 minutes. Dana didn't attend. Her attorney submitted the signed settlement agreement. The judge reviewed the terms. 11 minutes. Approved. Full restitution of the $189,000 in documented transfers would come from Dana's share of marital assets. No alimony. No claim to my pension. A signed acknowledgement of the unauthorized transfers that stopped just short of confession. Sarah walked me to my truck afterward. Spring sun warmed the courthouse parking lot. A cardinal sang from the oak tree by the entrance. You could have taken more, she said. The fraud evidence alone would have justified it. I opened the driver's door. The green notebook sat on the passenger seat where it had lived for 3 years. I wouldn't need it anymore. I got what I needed, I said. The supply lines were cut. The ledger was closed. Derek Mason was someone else's problem now. If you're feeling my revenge, hit like and drop a rating from 1 to 10 with your thoughts. I appreciate you. The cabin sits 50 feet from Lake Erie's edge. 2 bedrooms, private dock, view of the water from every window. The retreat I postponed for 15 years, purchased in May with money that finally stays in my account. Mine. Phil's truck pulls up the gravel drive on Saturday mornings. We fish until noon, eat sandwiches on the dock, talk about nothing important. Sometimes we don't talk at all. The divorce finalized in April. Dana moved to Cleveland. Amber's apartment went to someone else after the eviction proceedings concluded in May. I heard she's staying with friends now, moving between couches. Same friends from those Instagram photos. Derek Mason's phone number changed after the divorce finalized. The Wells Fargo account in Scottsdale closed. Phil tracked the pattern until it disappeared. Last ping was a gas station in Flagstaff. Then nothing. Connie sends photos from the warehouse. New supervisor missed 3 discrepancies you'd have caught in minutes, she texts. Margaret Chen hired 2 people to replace my position. Neither one balances a checkbook by hand. Amber called once. June, middle of the night, voice cracked from crying. Derek stopped answering, she said. Changed his number. Gone. I listened, let her talk. When she finished, I said 7 words. I hope you find what you're looking for. Then I hung up. The Cardinal outside my window sings at dawn. Same Cardinal, same branch, every morning since I moved in. I make coffee, watch the lake, think about Grant at Vicksburg. The man who controls the supply lines wins. Not flashy, just patient. I always knew that. It just took everyone else 15 years to see it.